Walton Falls is one of the most intricate and haunting analog horror series on YouTube. Created by Martin Paredes, it's a story told through the corrupted VHS tapes, corporate training videos, and lost archives of a doomed family entertainment business. But beneath the surface of cute mascots and glitchy tapes lies a deep web of tragedy, murder, and something that might not be entirely human. Today we're diving into the Walton Falls iceberg, from obvious mysteries at the top to the most disturbing theories hidden deep below the surface. If you do enjoy this video and like the Walton Falls, make sure to smash the like button down below and let me know your favourite Walton Falls iceberg chapter. But without further ado, let's get in to the tip of the iceberg. On the surface of the series, the Walton Falls just seems like another FNAF copy. However, this story has much more hidden beneath the cracks, as the surface level of this iceberg will include the setting of this series, of course the location of Bond's Burgers, and the animatronics themselves of Bon, Sha, Buzu, and Banny, which obviously adds on to the Relocate project with the introduction of Billy the Clown. However, let's get straight in to the location of Bond's Burgers. This is the setting of the series, a family restaurant founded by Jack Walton and Felix Kranken. It is reminiscent of a Chuck E. Cheese or Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, featuring animatronic mascots known as the Showstoppers. But unfortunately, the restaurant never actually opened, as something went horribly wrong before the opening day. Now, when we dive deep into what actually happened at Bond's Burgers before it opened, we must first understand of why it came to fruition, and that is of course because of two men, Jack Walton and Felix Kranken. So Jack Walton and Felix Kranken have been lifelong friends and have grown together as a business partnership, which then went on to franchise from BSI to Cyberfun Tech, which then involved much more higher ups within the companies, from the likes of obviously Jack Walton and Felix Kranken, but also Jason and Norman Poultrick. Now, Jason and Norman Poultrick are two characters which are yet to be fully explored in the series, specifically Jason, but Jason Poultrick had died way prior to the incidents that then on occur during the series, passing down to his son Norman, which has appeared once in the series in episode 4. However, the main aspect of the surface level of this iceberg lies deep within one family, at the head of the table, and that is the Walton family. Jack and Rosemary Walton have 3 kids, Sophie, Ed, and Molly. The series' mystery revolves around their disappearances, and the unraveling of the family after Felix's fatal mistake at the school dance. We must understand that Sophie is the protagonist of this series, so to say, more specifically in episode 3 of Bunny Farm. However, Ed and Molly are the core focus of why this series kicks off in the first place, at the hands of one man and one incident that changed the course of everyone's lives forever, and that incident lay in the hands of Felix Kranken. As the episodes go on, we of course go on to see tragedy and disturbing nature. However, in this iceberg, it cannot be explained without understanding the core focus of this series and the core chronology of each important incident, all originating from this one night. As Jack Walton and Rosemary are unable to collect their 2 youngest, Ed and Molly, for their school dance, they lay their trust in a dear friend and Felix Kranken. However, this will be the biggest mistake of their lives, as we see Felix Kranken collect the 2 kids from their house as Ed and Molly go to their school dance. However, they will not return home, as Felix has developed a chronic alcohol addiction leading to his divorce with Linda Thompson. This accident that occurs in Bunny Farm is what sources this series' story, and that is what happens on the drive home from this school dance. And that is what you're about to see.
Uncle Felix, were you drinking?
M-Y-Q.
Our teacher says drinking is not good.
No, I'm just feeling dizzy. It's not that big of a deal, alright? Number date 531. Flowers 5224343. I got a zap coming up. Rolling. Go!
I want to go home.
Molly, we're almost there.
Don't you think you're driving too fast?
Listen, I'm just trying to get you to home quickly, alright? Look, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling too good right now. I really I just want to lay in the bed and go to sleep.
It's alright. We get that today wasn't the best for you. We understand. Everything is gonna be okay.
Thanks, Molly.
As in a drunk driving incident, Felix kills Ed and Molly Walton while driving them home. However, instead of bringing their bodies back to their home, he cowardly hides the bodies by burying them in St. Juana's forest. This is the catalyst for the entire series, and ultimately the tip of the iceberg. Upon diving deeper into the Walton Falls, there's one thing that is clearly apparent, and that is the Lucky You video. This video is still to this day the most unexplained video that has come out thus far, specifically the terms of Sophie's pills. To this day, it's been unknown who gave Sophie these pills, but is always presumed to be Mr. Kranken, as Sophie Walton by the end of the series in episode 3, canonically is the last episode to release thus far, Sophie is the final Walton alive, and Lucky You presents that. This section of the iceberg will dive deeper into these secret videos, and more specifically Lucky You as a whole. However, there is something that lies deep within Bunny Smiles Incorporated, as the company behind Bon's Burgers supposedly tried to restore the restaurant's animatronic through a program called the Relocation Project. But this was more than just a rebranding effort, it was an attempted cover-up from the murders of 74. Lucky You pursues this explanation as, for example, the dialogue of, "I don't even know how, I didn't even mean to." To this day, we still don't know the perspective of which Lucky You is being told from. However, it is still widely theorized this could be Shadow Man, who is also Felix Kranken, which is known to be the case out of multiple theories and also multiple explanations of each episode, specifically in the Showstoppers album with this dialogue.
Watches from the dark. He knows he wrecked that car and swears he had no part.
The Relocation Project as well as Lucky You definitely plays hand in hand, as not only is this the video that is secret to the episode 2 of Relocation Project, but also delves deeper into Sophie Walton and Sophie's amnesia. Sophie has blocked out most of the memories of her sibling's death, which is apparent during episode 3. Throughout the tapes, she experiences flashbacks and hallucinations suggesting that she's being called back to uncover the truth, and that is being called back by one specific character. This character is known as Showbear, however, nowadays known as Mr. Snow. However, it has now been confirmed that Mr. Snow or Showbear will no longer have as an important role in the series as predicted, as Sophie's amnesia is all explained through his dialogue in episode 3, guiding her through each memory that's deep within her mind that the pills has covered up. To explain this tier is really just to explain how Sophie's pills have truly affected her, and how it will be explained in future episodes. However, it is theorized that we will not get an answer to this until maybe episode 7. However, I am still confident we will get an answer to these pills by episode 6. I think that Felix Kranken is the obvious answer to which he gains custody of Sophie, as realistically, where else would Sophie go? However, it is very apparent that maybe Sophie could have gone into the system, because surely Sophie would have remembered Felix's name as it's brought up in Bunny Farm as she plays through the video game. Overall, this tier is surrounded by the company's cover-up of the murders, how Felix Kranken has gotten away with everything. Felix Kranken has been called in by the police. We have known this from not only the episode, but also from FindJackWalton.com, that Felix lied to the police. However, he told the exact same story to Jack and Rosemary. So what story did Felix say? What did he explain? Unfortunately, we still don't have the answer to this question, which will be surely revealed in episode 5 or 6, because if it isn't, I'll be very deeply surprised. The elaborate cover-up from BSI is very much true and very apparent during episode 4, as once again that email from Norman Pooltrick to Felix Kranken shows that the disappearance of Susan Woodings at the time really did spread like wildfire. However, it is known to this day that Felix gets away with whatever has happened. Felix is alive all the way up to the 2000s, and we know that from FindJackWalton.com. So the question still lingers over this theory is, how did Felix Kranken get away with it all? And that is an answer that we are still yet to be given. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm really interested to see what your theories on that one would be. However, let's dive deeper into the cold waters of this iceberg, specifically into the deep end.
5 new messages. Felix, pick up the phone. Now, I need you to pick up the phone. It's been 3 hours since I told you to get Ed and Molly home. What happened to my children?
This stage of the iceberg is the most interesting and conspiracy-filled section yet, and that is involving the fate of Jack Walton. After losing his children Ed and Molly, Jack went missing shortly before the company opened. Later, the tapes implied that he was murdered and possibly stuffed into the Bond's animatronic body, the same one that is killing all of Jack's family. His distorted face appears in several corrupted frames, suggesting his soul is trapped within. From the first episode of Company introductory tape, it was very heavily implied that Jack Walton was Bond. It was very much apparent that Jack seemed to be the bad guy here. However, when you dive deeper into episode 2, you see that the disappearance of Jack Walton exists as a VHS tape. So the question seems to wonder of what actually happened to Jack Walton. So much so that an entire ARG was created trying to figure out where he has gone. Multiple theories have been made over the years, including by myself, and I have come to this conclusion. I think originally Jack Walton was Bond. However, due to the success of the series and the avoidance of having an obvious killer, Jack Walton was no longer the true form that Bond takes. But instead, Jack Walton's body had been stuffed within the Bond animatronic suit. However, he does not control the Bond suit. I think that if there's any place that Jack Walton should be, it is inside that Bond animatronic, as it is known that Jack is no longer alive. It is said that Jack Walton has still never been found up until the 2000s, as to me, he is not the type that would abandon his family, as an early teaser for episode 5 suggests, as he, quote, says, "We have to be strong for Sophie," as he says to Rosemary. My guess is Rosemary.
Rosemary.
That's Jack, okay.
We have to be strong.
Oh. The sheep is on the bed, oh no. That's foreshadowing. Sophie.
From the filming studio magic of Illinois, Chicago.
I'm trying to recognize any of the voice acting. So why would he all of a sudden abandon his family, unless he was taken out of the equation? To me, I feel like Felix Kranken kills Jack Walton in a state of impulse. There is a scene that has come out where Felix states to someone that, quote unquote, we're still friends, right? I think that is his conversation with Jack. I think this is what results in Jack Walton's death. I think Felix Kranken kills Jack Walton in a state of impulse, which then goes on for Felix to impulsively stuff him into the Bond animatronic suit. As for example, as Bond quotes in episode 4, a spirit must have something to tether onto to stay present.
Not yet, at least. No beating, but your body is now functionless. Out there, you're slowly suffocating, but here, you're safe. The spirit doesn't pass on quite as fast as the body does. I would know.
Therefore, Jack's spirit is in the Bond animatronic, but the Bond spirit also inhabits the same machine. I do not think this is a split control type situation. I think Jack Walton is in a state similar to the film Get Out, where Jack Walton is appearing to see everything that Bond is doing from a secondary perspective. To me, Jack Walton is viewing this creature kill each and every person he is close to, as he begins to witness his company and employees get withered down to the bone. To me, this is where Jack Walton's fate lies. Within the deep end of the iceberg, it is still yet to be explored properly of what could possibly happen to Jack Walton, as we still have 2 episodes of 5 and 6 yet to give us information of where he'd possibly gone. Episode 5 and 6 are chronologically is going to be very important to see what happened to Jack Walton. However, there is one secret tape that this iceberg contains that needs to be explained, and that is guilty. Felix's guilt is something that tethers onto this series so harshly that it clearly seems through for the whole series, especially in episode 4. Felix's mental breakdown is a major off-screen element. He isolates himself, drinks heavily, and avoids the Walton family. As in that conversation in episode 3, when Jack asks him to pick up Ed and Molly, he is hesitant. Some fans have theorized that his guilt manifests as Bond, a hallucination or supernatural entity tormenting him and going on to make him become the Shadow Man. To me, Felix's guilt is what really thrives this series, from really generic storytelling to something completely different, something completely original, and something truly special. Felix as a character is so complex and is still yet to be explored fully and fleshed out that has so much potential in terms of storytelling. Felix's guilt is what really strives his character to be someone that is not likable, but in some way relatable. Felix's one mistake led him down a life of tragedy and ultimately a life of murder, and a life that is restricted by one simple figure. I think Felix's guilt and the actual character of Felix himself are split into 2 separate personalities, therefore creating the Shadow Man. I think Felix's guilt that really transforms himself into the Shadow Man. I think they are one of the same, however, I think Felix's guilt is what truly strives and strengthens the Shadow Man's ability to manifest with Bond's plans. And there's one thing that truly shows Felix's true intentions, and that is the guilty tape.
Alright, it's... yeah. Messed up. It's been so long since I last used one of these. Last time I used this, I was driving. In the same conditions. I messed up. I have a problem. And this has been a problem for so long that I can't even remember. The first time I got drunk, I don't remember most stuff. That's probably why I carry this recorder with me.
This tape shows a level of character progression that really transforms a completely different perspective on the character of Felix. His audio logs all the way from the beginning of the company, as he slowly transforms into a man of business and ultimately of selfishness. Felix begins to go on and say how we could never have achieved this without your help in terms of the employees. However, as the tape goes on, he slowly begins to make little audio changes to where he would, instead of saying we, he would say I, almost showing that he can't believe what he has achieved, taking all the credit. This is also a key factor in the relocation project. The relocate project is stumbled upon by Felix as a cover-up. I think, to me, Felix is rushing in a way where Bond, the entity, needs to kill more, as he goes on a completely 4-year hiatus up until Ashley Parks gets killed in 78, and another 4-year hiatus until Brian Stells in 82. So do I think that these characters that we've seen being killed on screen are the only victims to Bond? Of course not. I think Felix Kranken is the one supplying the bodies to Bond straight onto his doorstep in K9. And if there's only one place that could in a way really transform Bond to not just being trapped outside a bunker, but back onto a main stage, and that is of course the Relocate project. To me, this project is not something that just tries to transform the business back on track. To me, I think this has a more sinister outcome. The Relocate project is truly something that has suspenseful nature and also full of disturbing footage that really shows how vicious Bond has become. The Ashley Parks scene in episode 2 in the Relocate project really transforms your opinion on Bond to see how vicious he truly is, as we see in episode 4 what he does to Susan Woodings. However, we do see that with each kill, Bond gets more vicious, as Ashley Parks was apparently alive for 1 hour while Bond was just picking her apart, piece by piece. The Relocation project is something that is truly disturbing and truly goes unnoticed. To me, the Relocation project is something that just goes unnoticed within the community, with ultimately how disturbing it actually is, and how disgusting and vicious the intentions truly were. Something that really transforms Felix Kranken's character from someone who started off as an innocent business owner to someone who is a liar and a complete force of nature within the Shadow Man. However, we must dive deeper and deeper into this iceberg, to dive deeper into the abyss of the waters, to find out the true nature of what the antagonist of this series really holds. So without further ado, let's dive deeper into the abyss. In this section of the iceberg, we are going to explore the true nature of Bond. Bond is the main animatronic in the Showstoppers, and is to this day the most confusing character in the entire Walton Files series, as we still to this day do not have any idea of who Bond could be. It is very heavily theorized that Bond is simply just an evil spirit. Many fans believe that Bond is an inhuman force, a demon or a parasitic entity feeding on grief and death, as each death in the series, from Rosemary all the way to Charles, all the way to Susan, and all the way up to as far as Brian Stells, strengthens the parasitic entity's hold on the animatronic mascot. However, Bond is not just a simple animatronic. He is a spirit. He has a personality, and he knows all. As the scene in episode 4 suggests, that Bond is not just your a run-of-the-mill slasher or a spiritual possession. Bond has a motive. However, to this day, this motive is still unexplained. Bond is just believed to be making everyone quote-unquote beautiful, therefore trying to have a level of perfection on humanity, starting with the Walton family. We get the vibe of this all the way from episode 2, as for example when Rosemary Walton is killed, Bond says, "We will make you beautiful," or "You will beautiful. You will be beautiful."
How odd. I remember we visited this room already. Sophie, where am I? Listen. By the time the lady entered the backstage, as the voice told her to, missing husband wasn't there. Instead, she found a rat. Rose broken will fix you. You will beautiful. You will beautiful. You will beautiful.
This is the first example of Bond's true motive, trying to make everyone like him, an animatronic mascot. Now it is unknown if Bond wants to spread this across all of humanity, or just have his own little nature of cult, but it is still to this day unknown. Bond is a villain that is so complex, but yet so simple. The true nature of Bond has been said by the voice actors themselves that the identity of Bond is way more simple than everybody's theories. So rather than him being a vengeful spirit looking to make everybody like him, maybe instead, he lies within the company itself. To me, Bond is one of the most complex villains in all of analog horror and horror media on YouTube. As to me, I feel like Bond was previously a human, and we get the first vibe of that in episode 4, as when he says to Susan that I would know.
Not yet, at least. Is still beating, but your body is now functionless. Out there, you're slowly suffocating, but here, you're safe. The spirit doesn't pass on quite as fast as the body does. I would know.
This confirms that not only has Bond been alive previously, but he has apparently experienced what Susan is currently experiencing in this scene. So was he put into the Bond animatronic as another vicious murder, or is he just completely bluffing? To me, Bond is a human. I feel like he has so many motives within the Bunny Smalls Incorporated company that he knows so much that he must have been a higher up. This obviously does mention the fact of Jason Pooltrick. Now, do I think this is the case? No, I do not think so. However, I do think that there has to be a level of theory that identified Felix as Shadow Man working with Bond as a confirmed story arc. However, it is very much apparent that the true nature of Bond does not go on his own. There is also the quote-unquote he entity. Several tapes mention a mysterious he being possibly behind the being of Bond, or something even older that infected the animatronic. The Walton Falls' aesthetic may hide biblical or demonic undertones, suggesting that this isn't just a family tragedy, but a supernatural curse, as this bleeds into the other episodes onto the channel, so much so as 32 Minutos. For those who are familiar with this channel, knows my relationship with this video, as this video really does emphasize this demonic curse plaguing another person, more specifically, plaguing a family member.
Julian. Hola, pájaros. Te ves igual de linda como la última vez que te vi.
Julian, querido, ¿por qué te ves así?
He alcanzado un plan más allá de los constructores.
However, the he entity is very simple, and that must be Shadow Man, as every iteration of Bond's killings has a level of teamwork. As to me, Bond is very clearly not working alone. As confirmed from Lacrimosa and also episode 2, we get our first looks at Shadow Man. From episode 2, when Rosemary is getting put into the Sha animatronic, before so we see a shadow figure following her around the location.
Welcome to the basement. Right now, you are in the main storage area. As you can see, this is the room where we storage more important items such as stages, tables, arcade machines, and birthday props. Now, please follow me to the next door.
In the Bond's Burgers restaurant, remember to avoid touching or shining lights at our robots unless you are a facility technician. Now let's move on to the next room.
How odd. I remember we visited this room already.
Obviously, symbolizing Shadow Man. As all the way up to Lacrimosa in episode 4, as Susan in the bunny suit witnesses the TV before entering Wonderland, a shadowy figure pops up on screen. As well as from episode 4, from Susan's perspective of Banny's animatronic suit in the back room, also sees this same shadowy figure leave the room. To me, this is very obviously Felix Kranken, as who else would be in the location, as it has been stated that not only Jack Walton stays behind and works, but also Felix stays behind the location and drinks. We know this courtesy of Linda's notes in episode 3. To me, the Abyss is one of the chapters in this iceberg that truly needs to be explained in future episodes. The identity of Bond, the identity of Shadow Man being Felix, and overall the motive behind the killings. Why do they do what they do? What does it mean by making someone beautiful? Is it just as simple as trying to make people like Bond, or is it something more sinister? However, we are yet to know. There is one final thing that needs to be explained in this chapter, and that is Sophie's experience in Bunny Farm. Sophie's hallucinations in Bunny Farm show abstract imagery, eyes, blood, and static, and memories forced into her by the spirits within. Her arc represents the struggle between remembering and surviving. To me, many theorize that Sophie is doomed to follow her parents, consumed by the same darkness that shadowed her family, consumed by the same shadow that is waiting for her in Brighton, Michigan, specifically in K9. Sophie is a character that is most definitely going to be kept away from episode 5 and 6, as Sophie does not even appear in episode 4 except for one split frame. To me, I think Sophie is being kept for episode 7, because I feel like her character arc and her story is so vital to the explanation behind Bunny Smiles Incorporated's mysteries that it needs to be kept away, to make sure that episode 5 and 6 fully delve in to the true nature behind Felix, Ed and Molly's killings, along with Rosemary and Charles. However, we are still yet to hear about when those episodes could be released, so Sophie's visions may never get an explanation until the end of next year. However, these chapters have all been originated by one simple thing, as we explore the bottom of the iceberg, the chapter I like to call the Welcome to Bond's Burgers connection. Welcome to Bond's Burgers was a game created by Martin Walls way before the universe of the Walton Files. It involved the traditional animatronics of Bond, Shah, Buzu, and Billy, and also Tammy from the mysterious house. Felix Crankin was known as John Woolbrook, along with Jack Walton being a very different appearance. Felix would go on to take on this persona of John F. Woolbrook, as Felix Crankin would have his name in quotation marks. So is this to believe that possibly in the series, Felix Crankin changes his name to John F. Woolbrook? That would be a very interesting coincidence, considering it would lean into this game possibly having a level of continuity with the series. It's very, very interesting to note that this game introduces a lot of other characters, including Tammy, which went on to star in the mysterious house, but also involves Rocket as a quote-unquote raw bunny. Rosemary Walton also appears in this game, and it is very interesting to see what also would have been originated in this game in comparison to what we got in the Walton Files. TVA, also known as Cybertelly, also originated in this game. So it's interesting to see how all these characters who may be new to the Walton Files were all planned from the beginning. Some theories suggest that this video game does share similarities with the mainline story, and will have a level of continuity, exploring the same curse but in a different form. To me, I think this game will have some level of continuity, but I feel that it won't have any level of importance. The only thing I would love to see if this game gives a hint of how Felix Crankin gets away with all these murders and all these disappearances, specifically around his company. Because surely with him being the main person at the company, he would have to be the prime suspect. Therefore, changing his name would be a very interesting and also a very realistic turn of events. To me, this connection to the mainline story may not be huge. It is, however, interesting to note, because maybe, just maybe, this game that was originally meant to be a FNAF-style spin-off game, maybe it has a lot more to hold than what's on the surface. However, the bottom of this iceberg does not just hold this connection to an old video game, but also a theory that I've seen a few people mention, and that is Jack's resurrection. As mentioned previously, we do see the tape in episode 2 of the disappearance of Jack Walton. I would love to see if that's a tape that we may actually see. However, maybe Jack Walton never truly died. Instead, he merged with the animatronic system and his consciousness split across the tapes, corrupted by the same force that controls Bond. His fragmented messages are hidden, and reversed audio are trying to reach Sophie. For example, in episode 1 of Let Me Out of Here, along with his many appearances in episode 2, specifically at the beginning of the episode, where he would be hiding in the corner of each frame while also appearing in full. Not only that, this also leads into the theory that Jack was originally Showbear, which was a very popular theory when Bunny Farm had released, which also would make perfect sense, because realistically, who else was involved in all the rest of the tapes that were trying to reach Sophie? As well as Lucky You stating at the end of the video of, "They will see you soon, Sophie." Maybe this was a warning, and maybe Jack Walton was the person issuing this. This also leads into the tapes are alive, a disturbing meta theory that has gone around on YouTube media for years. However, maybe the tapes are sentient. The idea by watching them, you're interacting with this cursed technology. A digital echo of the Walton family's suffering, looping forever. Every playback revives what's gone on. Every playback reveals more. And every playback reveals the true disturbing nature of what goes on in the Walton files. This would also lean into Jack being inside the tapes. As for example, Anthony, the character who collects these tapes, states that whenever these tapes turn cinematic, it is only simply a white screen on the VHS tape. Therefore, we are seeing something else. So what are the tapes trying to specifically show us? Who are we in this story? Are we Sophie? Are we somebody else? Or are we someone who has a deep connection to the story that has not been revealed yet? It is be interesting to see how this perspective changes when eventually this gets explained. To why Anthony is not able to witness what we are witnessing. What importance do we as a viewer have in order to witness what exactly has gone on? To me, the final layer of this iceberg is the true horror in the Walton Files. That it isn't the blood or the jump scares, it's the endless repetition of grief. Felix's mistake, Jack's obsession, Sophie's visions and amnesia, as each tape is another attempt to make sense of the tragedy, but it always ends the same way. The Walton family is trapped in a story that can never end. However, maybe that's the point. The Walton Files is a story about memory, loss, and the dangers of trying to bring the past back to fruition. And sometimes, the more we try to remember, the more the darkness remembers us.
Hello there internet dwellers, welcome back to another video. Today we are reacting to more Manticore videos. There are 2 more episodes of the American alternative folklore series that we've been watching, and you guys can Hello there internet dwellers, welcome back to another video. Today we are reacting to Manticore, and we've reacted to Manticore in the past obviously. I remember some of my earliest reaction videos being the Monument Mythos, and that was probably my foot in the door when it came to ARG, analog horror, that kind of thing. Looking back, I have very fond memories of that series, and then obviously there was the House in the Ocean, then you got the Ningen, which I watched 1 episode of. I didn't really finish that. There was a lot of things going on. I don't know if the Nixon verse is gone now. It doesn't look like it's listed here unless it's under the Monument Mythos. I don't think so. But yeah, they were really cool series. I really enjoyed them, and it looks like Manticore has been working on another series called Alternate American Folklore, and I think it's gonna have the same vibe as the Monument Mythos, because it's based in American history but kind of twisting it, so it's like unfiction. As always guys, be sure to go check out Manticore. Their link will be in the description down below. Go like the videos, subscribe, all that good stuff. Just give them watch time, because that is what pushes them in the algorithm, and we always promote amazing creators on this channel. The thing Columbus brought. Historians note the Columbian Exchange greatly expanded the ship jester's range. Now, Manticore has a very unique way with words, and this could literally mean anything. This could mean that the ship is called Jester, or the jester on the ship increased the range. I don't know what that means. Anyway, let's just jump straight into this and see what this new series brings us. There they are. Is that Christopher? Is that old Columbus? I hear Christopher Columbus was a bit of a dick. October 12th, 1492. Christopher Columbus arrived in, where was that? Guanahani. People say that Christopher Columbus discovered America, but there were already people living there, was there not? So it was kind of already discovered, but I'm guessing, as in like, this lot here discovered this lot here, in a way. So it wasn't, yeah, you know what I mean. He believes that he has reached the East Indies. Oh yeah, because back then, I think the map was just this back then, and they had this kind of idea that if you go this way, like in a video game, you will just pop out back through this way, or something like that. He renames the people he encounters. The natives. Indians. Oh, okay. The misnomer will live for centuries. They were just like, okay, October 28, 1492. 2 weeks later, Columbus lands in Cuba. Hey, forget about it. Columbus demands fruit to treat his crew's scurvy. Okay, I think what happens here, from what I remember in history, is that he knew that there was a solar eclipse coming, and he said, if you don't do this for us, God is going to be angry at you. He used the solar eclipse as an excuse to get what he wanted. And I think he also spread smallpox or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spreading misinformation. I need to... 450 pounds for the 90 sailors. 30 pounds for the ship Jester. What? £450 of fruit? Wait, why is the ship Jester separate to the rest of the crew? Louis de Torres, Columbus's interpreter, relays the Taino... How do you pronounce this? People's reply. Taino? Who is the ship Jester? Columbus laughs. He orders his crew to open the ship's cargo hold. Oh my goodness, what is that? The ship Jester emerges. Oh my goodness. What are they doing with this dude? Oh, he's like, they call him all 480 pounds of fruit are provided. A Fort La Navidad is built by the crew. What, on the island? And in Cuba, 39 sailors stay behind at La Navidad. March 15, 1493. Christopher Columbus returns to Spain after months of... Wait, what are you up to, Columbus, eh? What's all this about? Months of doing what? Debauchery? I love the music that Manticore uses. Columbus reports a missing crew member. The Beast. It's not the Jester, is it? The ship Jester was left in Cuba. Who's this? King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella. The Catholic monarchs sponsor a second voyage to retrieve the ship Jester. How important is this ship Jester? Columbus is at the height of his fame. September 25th, 1493. 6 months later, the second voyage begins. Columbus leads 17 ships and 1,200 men. A new Jester? The newly appointed ship Jester fails to entertain. Is he thrown overboard? No way. He is forced to walk the plank. You know how, like, nowadays in comedy clubs, you know, you could potentially say a joke and maybe you get booed or whatever. At least it wasn't life or death at this point, you know what I mean? Like, if you failed to make someone laugh, you die. That would be insane nowadays. Christopher Columbus returns to La Navidad November 27th. La Navidad is found in flames. Who's this? 39 bodies are eventually recovered. The Taino people claim that the ship jester helped stop a massacre by the sailors. Columbus does not believe them. Wait, what? After years of blank, and blank, Columbus set sail for Spain. Bro, Columbus, what are you up to, buddy? The ship jester remains at large. Oh wow, 1996, that's a freaking leap in time. 500 years later, France prepares its final nuclear test. It's gonna be like Godzilla. Fangataufa and Marora atolls. I'm so sorry if I'm Marora. It's like Scooby-Doo. A sunken ship is discovered moments before detonation. Okay. And the jester was there too. The ship jester emerges. It's literally Godzilla, guys. You mean he emerged after the nuclear explosion or just before? Here we go. So the ship jester's still alive. He looks like an axolotl. Axolotl. September 24th, 1996. 8 months later, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is open for signature. Nuclear Test Ban Treaty.
Good afternoon. Today in New York, the United Nations General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to adopt the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and open it for signature later this month.
What if all nuclear powers don't sign the agreement? There were 3 votes against the resolution.
There were the Indians, and I believe we can find a way for the Indians to have their security concerns met.
Is that real? Okay. Let me just quickly go back to what the description says as well. The Columbian exchange greatly expanded the ship jester's range. What? The range? As in life range? Or like, how? What do you mean by that? So Columbus left behind this freaking 30-foot creature? Jester, sorry. Like, how do you do that for one? Well, I don't understand how you do that. I guess then this thing, the jester, became like a guardian of the natives, and then there was like a nuclear test treaty signed just after they discovered the jester in wherever this was, in the ocean somewhere, but like the Indians refused to sign. So what does that mean? They refused to, they want nukes? It followed Lewis and Clark. I don't know who Lewis and Clark are. Maybe are they important figures? I should really research this stuff, shouldn't I? From a young age, explorer William Clark is accompanied by York, who is the same age but enslaved. Clark dreams of power and political office. Is that him dreaming right now? At a young age. York dreams of starting his own family. Decades later, President Jefferson chooses at Meriwether Lewis to command an expedition through the American West. Lewis invites Clark to be his co-leader. Okay. To keep families intact, married men are not recruited. Well, that's interesting. Okay. But like, wasn't everyone married back then? However, Clark assigns York to the team. Okay, York's in the gang now. York must leave his wife. What? The expedition. Well, that's unfair. Well, there's a lot of things that were unfair back in these times. Lewis and Clark have difficulty speaking with Native Americans. York proves to be a highly effective communicator. Whoa! Is his head blown off? What the hell was that? Every tribe enjoys his wit and sense of humor. They find his presence healing and named him Big Medicine. Okay, that's interesting. Occasionally, letters are delivered to the team by traders. They are mostly sent by President Jefferson. They are mostly addressed to Lewis and Clark. One day, York receives illegible messages in a handwriting eerily similar to Jefferson's. He tries to destroy the mail. Eh? Doesn't work. No luck.